Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Rick dropping in on you. Here we are starting another work week. It is Money Monday. Today, we're going to talk about 5 financial principles that everyone should know and practice. Before I get started, as always, I want to point you to the post box, description box, wherever the written content for this video is set, and there are a number of different opportunities there. We're talking about revenue streams and all this stuff in Money Monday. One of the best ways to do that is create online revenue. If you haven't tried my 7-day online business launch course, this is a good time to get in on that. Also, if you haven't picked up my 25th book, The War on Black Wealth, Breaking the Code of Generational Wealth, you definitely want to pick that up. And finally, uh, if you haven't signed up or registered for the Legacy Wealth Academy course, which is a certification course, but also a preparation course for people who are talking about building generational wealth. You need to build it, but you also need to be able to teach it to the ones you love, especially those you're responsible for, like your children and grandchildren. You also want to be able to maybe make money with what you learn. So the certification allows you to do that. If you want to take advantage of that, the information is in the description box. The value should already be expressed in what you are able to do with it. So I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time on that, not right now. I want to get right into this because I'm a little late in getting started. So there are all of these different principles that I think you can apply to success. You can apply to money. You can apply to a lot of different things. First of all, when it comes to success, whether it's in finance, whether it's in business, whether it's in life and relationships, you have to define that for yourself because it's different for everybody. Everybody isn't looking for the same thing. Everybody doesn't want the yacht and the private plane. Everybody doesn't want to be the head of a multi-billion-dollar corporation. But everybody has an idea of what success looks like for them, what it means for them, and how it presents itself over time. And that's what you need to define. And you need to have a clear vision. When you don't have a vision, it is extremely difficult to be able to judge whether or not you're moving in the proper direction, whether or not you're moving at a pace that will get you to where you're trying to go in the time that you're trying to get there, and so much more. So, we want to talk about principles. We're going to talk about 5 principles that I think are immensely important to your overall success in finance. Um, and finance includes the entire spectrum. Wealth building is the accumulation of assets. Uh, Money Monday is about the front end predominantly. How are you getting your money so that you can do what you're supposed to do with it, so that you can build wealth? Is the first thing. Traditionally, people tend to look for jobs and they tend to prepare themselves to get good jobs. And there's a vein for that. But I am a huge proponent of multiple streams of income. So if you've got the greatest job, you still need to be generating other income that's not dependent upon someone else saying you can do it. So if whether you got a company of your own or you are employed by someone, there should still be other streams of income that you have going that will hedge against catastrophic loss if you lose your primary source of income. Uh, this isn't saying everything is 6 figures. We hear 6 figures so much that you would swear everybody in America is making 6 figures. That's not the case. So we need to be realistic about our approach. There's nothing wrong with striving for 6, 7, 8 figures or more, but you got to understand the cost of obtaining that, a cost of achieving that. There is a level of commitment that comes with every level that you're going to strive for that takes you to the higher level or the higher point of achievement. It's going to require some things from you. Life will pay whatever price you demand of it, but life is always going to make a counter demand. You tell life you want wealth, life is going to demand sacrifice. Life is going to demand discipline. Life is going to demand a center of focus and understanding of what's required and an execution of what's required. And if you don't do that, I don't care how much you pray, I don't care how many times you say it, I don't have how many times you quote it. If you're not fulfilling your end of the deal with life, with God, with the universe, however you want to put it, you're not going to get what you want. You're going to have to be willing to go the distance of the process necessary for you to have this particular thing you want. In this instance, we're talking money, but it's in anything in life. The greater things require greater sacrifice, greater commitment, greater attention to detail, greater focus. All of these things are things that you're going to have to master if you want to master anything in your life. So let's real quickly get through these 5 principles. There are many, but I chose these 5 today. The first one is pay yourself first. Now, that's an interesting one because I've seen it taught 2 different ways. I've seen the hustle mentality of pay yourself first, and I've seen the wealth building mentality of pay yourself first. Both of them, if you've got a work ethic, have a certain level of validity and value. I'm gonna give you the hustle side first. The hustle side of this idea of paying yourself first is there are certain things that you just are conditioned to pay, right? You're going to pay your rent or your mortgage. You're going to pay your car note. You're going to pay your utility bills. You're going to, pay those things because you have to have them. So those things you're trained to pay. What most people end up doing is paying those things first and living off of whatever's left. And because we tend to judge our comfort around having a roof over our head, being able to move where you want to, having food on the table and everything like that, that's our comfort zone. So if that's covered, the chance of us striving and pushing ourselves for more is less likely because everything I need, I've already covered. Uh, the hustle side of it says, pay yourself first. And it's go buy yourself something, go take a trip, go do something. And then what's going to happen? Well, when you get back, the rent's due, the mortgage due, the car notes due, utilities are due. You're trained to pay them. You're going to figure out a way to pay them. So, but you can't pay them with your income that you got from your job or wherever you got it from because you've spent it. So what are you going to do? You're going to come up with a new way of doing it. You're going to come up with a way to do it. And if you do that consistently, it can't be well, I'm going to borrow it from mom because eventually that's going to play out. I'm going to borrow it from my cousin and my brother and my sister. That's going to play out. So eventually at some point you start creating it. That's the hustle mentality. Like I said, there's some value in it. If you got work ethic, if you got grind, if you don't do it. You don't want to end up homeless, don't do it. You don't want to end up behind trying to catch up paying the rent or the mortgage, don't do it. But it has some value. My preferred teaching and concept around pay yourself first is before I pay those things that have to be paid, or before I sit up and plan something that I don't need to do, I pay my wealth. So I pay myself by investing in something, investing in whatever it is. It automatically comes out. Set it up where you don't even have control over it, where you can't mess with it because there's always something. But so that's the other side of it. Pay your wealth forward and pay your wealth first. And it's responsible, and you're going to see the benefits of it in the long term. And then you get to a point to where the things that you were concerned about initially stop being concerns. It's a process. It's a point of growth. You cannot rush it. There's some things you can do to expedite it, but it's a process. We have to learn to stop trying to escape the process. We love that. We want the promise, but we don't want the process. We want the prize, but we don't want the process. We want all the things that we look at life, but we don't want the process. We don't want to go through the sacrifice. We don't want to go through the hardships. We don't want to go through what it takes to learn in order to become the person that's capable to do it. We just want to magically do it. We want to, in some way, just sit up and say, if I say it enough times, it happens. Yeah, you need to say it because you're programming your brain, but you've got to also activate the behavior behind the idea. The behavior has to align with the idea. You have to have an idea, you have to have the speech behind the idea, but you also have to have the actions. We love to sit up and talk about it. We love to, and see, as long as it's just talk and there's no behavior associated with it, there's no consistency in the behavior, you have a fantasy. But once you take it and you say there's an idea and now there's a behavior behind it and there's a consistency, now there's a vision in motion. And when the vision is in motion, it's creating momentum. And as it creates momentum, you start to move forward and things become simpler and in some way easier, but you're always going to have challenges. But if you don't make up in your mind that you're going the distance, that you're going to finish what you start, you're never going to achieve anything of real true value. You're never going to have any significant anything of significance that's long standing. You'll have flash in the pans, you'll have moments, but the idea of being able to consistently move through life and get better each and every day in some area requires that you consistently follow through on the things that you need to do to better yourself, because you don't get what you want, you get who you are. So if I want something, then I have to ask myself, what does the person who has that, what do they look like? What time do they wake up in the morning? What books do they read? What kind of friends do they have in their circle? All of these things are things that you should know about the person who can do that, because those are the things you're going to have to teach yourself. Those are the things you're going to have to develop and evolve into if you want to do it. You can't have a wealth reality with a poverty mindset. So if I want to switch it, I've got to switch it. And it doesn't mean that I'm going to change my mind and all of a sudden there's going to be this abundance of wealth sitting in front of me. Now, the first thing is, when I changed my mind, I realized it was always there. When I changed my mind, when I changed my thinking about money, when I changed my thinking about wealth, when I changed my thinking about abundance, I realized everything is there. The most valuable asset I have is between my ears, because in that I can create anything I desire. I can create anything I want with the right amount of commitment, with the right amount of follow through, and with a consistency in behavior and thought. I can do anything I set my mind to, but it's going to require follow through. And that's what we don't want, the process. You're going to have the process. So you've got to pay yourself first. The next thing is decide to be wealthy. People don't realize this. Wealth is a decision. Wealth is a decision that I'm going to wake up and do all the things that wealthy people do. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to put down a poverty mindset. I'm going to put down behavior that is reflective of a poverty mindset. I'm going to look at money differently. I am literally going to decide that everything that needs to be done for me to build this wealth, I'm going to do. In deciding it, I'm going to come up with an idea of what wealth means to me. And when I come up with what wealth means to me, then I can set a benchmark of what needs to be done, when it needs to be done. And then I can determine what I need to do to get there. But it comes from a decision. It is simply a decision that I am no longer going to live life like this, that I'm going to end the poverty line in my family, that I am going to be the one that's going to sit up and build wealth so that this can happen. And here's something that I can tell you. The greater the anchor of your commitment, the greater chance you have of fulfilling it. And what is the anchor? The anchor is, why are you building the wealth? The reason most people can't follow through is they don't know their why. They're doing it because that's what everybody said. You're not this until you get this, and there's no real true anchor. You got to be anchored deeply into something in order to follow through on it. Because I'm gonna tell you something: anything worth having comes with challenges. Anything worth having comes with disappointments, frustrations, setbacks, hard times, lean years. And if you don't have an anchor that holds you in place when all of the turbulence of negativity and forces against what you're trying to do are moving against you, you will drop it, you will put it down because it hurts, it's uncomfortable, it does not feel good. So why are you doing it? You got to have a why. With me, it's my family. It's, I want to make sure that they don't have to start where I started. I want to make sure that my great grandchildren start in a place that I never even fathomed was possible when I started. And what it does is it also allows me to get out of the selfishness of spending and consumerism. Consumerism is extremely selfish. Even when you're sitting up and you think you're doing it for someone else, buying those Jordans for the kids is actually about you proving to yourself you can do something for them that didn't happen. But how much value are you bringing to their lives outside of those shoes that they're going to outgrow or get tired of and throw in the corner or wear out, depending on how they look at shoes? But you're buying it because to you it represents being in a different state financially than you were growing up, and you want to do it for them. You don't want to have them being told no as many times as you were told no because it simply wasn't there. So you go out and do it. But what are you projecting and presenting and building for them in the future that's going to lay them down? It would be much like I have a friend who has a son who has a shoe fetish. I have one, but mine is nowhere near as bad as it used to be. I guess I'll grow it, but I've had one. I put it that way. But this is what my friend told her son. She said, "Hey, if you want it, I suggest you figure out how to do it." And what she did is says, one thing I'm going to require of you if you want my help is that you're going to have to start investing. And so he started investing in Nike. And this was some years ago. And this kid now has a portfolio. I think he just turned 18 or 19. This kid has a portfolio that most adults will look at and go, pretty impressive. And I have another friend who's a former colleague whose son likes electronic stuff. And again, the thing is, okay, go out and create the revenue. Instead of coming to me, I'll back you if you come to me with an idea. If you come to me with an idea and we look at it and we say, okay, the idea is viable, I'll get behind it, I'll back it. But you can't just keep coming to the well without thinking that eventually the well's going to run dry. You have to be able to add to the well. And so here's the thing. So you've got to be willing to decide to be wealthy, and it's a decision. Now, all of the things that come with the decision are things that you're going to learn. That's why I think the Legacy Wealth Academy course is so important. But then the next thing is unlock the power of goal setting. You would be surprised how many people come to me and say, "Hey, Doc, I want you to help me do this. This is what I do for a living. I help people achieve things that they initially thought was possible, or people the average person believes is impossible." No such thing as impossible, is what I believe. The only limits you have are the ones you accept in your mind. The moment that you get that understood, things change. It's not magic. You're not going to say, okay, I no longer believe that I'll be poor, and all of a sudden you're going to have money. But the moment you realize that nothing can stop you from building wealth, that you are literally by your own very nature and creation in being a creator, a creation, is that you are yourself abundant. When you start looking at when I do my affirmations at the end of my meditation, my prayer and meditation every morning, one of the things I say to myself is, I am abundant. Not I have an abundance or I have access. I am abundant. I am my most abundant resource, because there's no end to what I'm capable of producing and creating. I haven't even scratched the surface. Despite the things that I've already accomplished in life, I haven't scratched the surface. And what it does is it opens up the gate. But see, when you have goal setting, now I have things I can measure. I can sit up and say, okay, on this date, I'm going to do this. And I can tell you that the way I set my goals is I'm rarely going to hit it in the time that I set, because I set these astronomically crazy goals and they are so far out. My mentor 30 plus years ago told me, he said, you fail forward. He said, you set these astronomical goals and you fail forward. He said, the things you're going to do, I can't even imagine. And this was 30 something years ago. And when I first heard fail, because we were always told failure is not an option. Failure is a part of the growth process. If you're really doing it the way you're supposed to, you're going to fail a lot. Why? Because you're pushing yourself. One of the most favorite quote, not just one of my favorite quotes, my most favorite quote, Stephen Furtick says, if the vision that you have for your life isn't so huge that it intimidates you, it's a good chance it's insulting God. The creator didn't create you to be average. He didn't create you to be mediocre. He didn't create you to ease and move and crawl your way through life, barely existing, barely surviving. God designed you to be spectacular, to be a representation of the designer. The design is always a reflection of the designer, and the design always had a specific purpose. Nothing is designed without purpose. Nothing is designed without reflecting the designer. You are not reflecting the designer when you're moving through life just barely easing by because you're trying to hide in the corner of comfort. But when you stretch yourself and say, you know what, I'm going to reach for it, what you do is you pull yourself out of a comfort zone, and it doesn't feel good. People come to me all the time and say, well, I tried that, Doc, but it just didn't feel right. You know what they're telling me? They're telling me that it was uncomfortable. They're telling me that it was unfamiliar. See, we get so familiar with behavior. We get familiar with results. We get familiar with environments. And when it's time to step out and do something beyond what is normal, we feel funny about it. And our bodies and our minds tell us that doesn't feel right. So we go back to what we know. The problem is growth never happens in your place of familiarity. Growth happens in the point of resistance and friction and all the things that move against you. That's where you grow. When you're in the gym, you don't get strong by throwing up stuff that doesn't give you a challenge. You get stronger by pushing something that after a while gets too heavy to lift. That's how you grow in every area. If you're not challenging yourself with your goals, then you are robbing yourself of opportunity and potential. And it's on you. You're going to have to be willing to get out. You're going to have to look at yourself and say, look, what are my goals? And you set the goals. And then you measure it. Okay, maybe I didn't hit it. What I need to do next time. I eventually hit my goals. I rarely hit them when I set them. If I hit a goal when I set it for, I'm actually frustrated with myself, because what it means is there's probably something I left out of that. But if I set a goal that I don't hit, but my goal is to hit it, that means every day I'm waking up with a sense of urgency, because I know there's very little chance of me hitting that goal. So I need to make sure that I do everything I can. That's when you hear me in almost all of my videos. At the end, I say I live my life on full, so that when I leave this place, I don't hit. Every day I live my life on full. Why? Because there's something I'm chasing that's so hard to get to and so far away that if I waste a moment, it may cost me days. And that's something we don't see. We don't see that with money. We don't see that with time. And we don't see that with opportunities. That something that we sacrifice in the way of effort may cost us more than what we sacrificed, and we don't get it. When you waste $1, it could cost you 50 if you don't understand investing, if you don't understand money. If you go buy a pair of Jordans, that could cost you $25,000 over the next 10 years, because that 250 could have been put in a compound interest bearing account. And I'm not talking about a bank account or savings. I'm talking about some kind of investment like an index fund that you could put it into, and it will grow exponentially, building on its own interest. And then you could add to it and add to it. And before you know it, you're looking up and you've built something you never thought would be there, but it cost you. Everything has a price beyond what you see, and you got to learn how to measure that. You got to learn how to measure your time. That 30 minutes that you sit up and just waste it doing nothing, or you wasted talking about something that didn't matter, or you wasted watching something that really didn't add any value to you, or reading some BS that didn't add, could cost you days, weeks, or months in reaching your goal. You are going to have to learn how to manage that. That's why I wake up with such urgency. That's why I push so hard, because I'm going to go to bed tonight having given this day everything that I had to give. I won't go to bed with regret. I won't go to bed asking, could I have done a little more? I won't leave this life. If I'm able to sit up and know when I'm leaving, like, okay, I'm reaching the end of my life, I'm not going to have any regrets. You know why? Because I'm going to have given life everything I've gotten, and I would have gotten everything from life possible. And I will have laid the foundation and the understanding for those who are in my periphery to do the same. That's what life is about. It's about living the fullness of your design, living life at the level of your design. So you got to have goal setting. The next one is become a master of your money. Again, a good way to do that is by being around people who understand money, taking courses, reading books. You can become an autodidact. You can enter a course like Legacy Wealth, where we're going to teach you all the principles that they've been hiding from you for years, and show you that it's possible. Show you that you can start with as little as $1. I mean, the thing is, get in the game. Buy your way into the game. Buy you a stock in something for $1, a piece of stock, a share of a stock in something. And now you have ownership in something that is making money. It's a new move. And what you find out is, I, I have an option. I can buy something that depreciates in value and I'm a consumer, or I can buy something that appreciates in value, or at the very minimum holds its value, and now I'm an investor. Investors build wealth, consumers make other people wealthy. And it's a mindset. Again, it goes back to the other one. You have to make a decision to be wealthy. This isn't some magic thing. This isn't some I got it all figured out and life is just great the rest of your life. You're gonna have your ups and downs, you're gonna have your ins and out. Running a business, trust me, isn't easy, but it is unbelievably rewarding and fulfilling. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I love every challenge that I meet because it grows me. This is the thing. It all depends. The question is, are stocks better than freeheld or freehold property? I'm a big real estate person, but the ability to uh leverage yourself in the stock market is hardly parallel when you have things like an index fund, a passively managed mutual fund like an index fund that you can leverage and you can double down on. Most people who are coming in or operating in a poverty mindset are doing the opposite of that, which is compound interest in debt, meaning that you're going to buy a house for $300,000, but over the course of 30 years of paying for the house, you're going to pay well over $1 million for it. Well, that's the other side of it. There's the wealth building side of interest, where I'm going to invest in something, and over time, what I'm investing is actually going to build interest on the interest. It's going to compound the money I'm putting in, but the interest is also compounding. So it's going to grow itself, and then I'm going to keep adding to it, and it's going to grow on that plus what it grew on. And it's crazy how it works. But you also, my thing is, you want a diversity. I guess the simple answer to that question is you want a diversity. You want to hold real property. Some people are getting into ETFs and things of that nature. I am a fan of holding real property because you control the property. You can become real creative of the property, and so many other things. But there's so many different ways to get in the game now in investing that you have to start reading. You have to start asking questions. You have to start exploring things. There's no right or wrong way when you are educated in the choice you make. That's the thing you have to do. You have to learn how to read financials. You have to learn how to read markets. You have to learn and understand what to expect. Here's the thing that I will tell you. I am real big on holding. I'm not big on day trading and active. While day trading is a good way to build riches quickly, it's also the fastest way to go broke. What I teach people when I'm talking to them, or when it's a part of a course that I'm operating, is in the stock market, you don't experience a loss until you actually transact the sale of your stock. So say for instance, you have a stock and it's worth $100 a share, and all of a sudden you go into a bear market or something happens and the price of the shares start to drop and it drops down to $50. You haven't lost $50. Your stock has lost value. You only lose that $50 a share when you sell. So what you do is you do your homework up front. You find companies that have historically performed well. You find a number of them. That's why I like indexing. Indexing is going to take a certain number of high performers and group them together. The S&P 500, top 500 performing companies. Well, some are going to have rough months. All 500 are not. It produces 8.2 to 10% annual compounded interest like clockwork. But let's just say you're not doing it in a fund. You are literally picking 10 different stocks over different diverse industries, so that if an industry takes a hit, you've got a diversity in it. So some stocks are still doing well while others aren't. It hedges, it leverages, and it wins because you're going to also be practicing what we talked about before, asymmetric risk reward. You're going to be investing in things that you can put a little into, and it's growing at such a rate that your small investment will actually triple, quadruple, even more. So when you hit one, you can afford to lose in two or three, because you're playing the game to hedge against risk and hedge against the downside. So that's one of the things that you want to do. You want to get into a diverse set of investments. Invest in art. invest in the stock market, invest in real estate, invest in precious metals, invest in companies. Now, when you do that, you've really got to know what you're doing and understand business, because you got to be able to look and check markets, be able to read marketing research, marketing reports, marketing analysis, to be able to understand whether a company has a chance of actually surviving in that market and accumulating enough of the market share to be viable in the market. But venture capital is a way to get up. Man, people are making a lot of money in it. You just simply got to know what to invest in, what not to invest in, and understand that you are going to experience losses. You don't want to be so risk averse that you never take a risk or you'll never win. You're going to have to get out there, but when you hedge and you're diverse, the chance of you losing everything isn't huge. I mean, you have to take a whole extreme market crash. And then if you're holding diverse assets across other things, so everything isn't in the stock market, even if it crashes, you're not dead. If you're holding real estate, if you're holding precious rare metals, valuable metals, if you're holding things that hold value over time, art, everything's coming back around. It always does. Let me see. There's one more question. AI is definitely going to have an impact on everything. So I can't see why it wouldn't impact market margins. It's simply a major move, and it's only getting stronger. It's only becoming more prevalent, and it's going to have an impact. The thing is, there's certain things that AI can't do. So I wouldn't be overly dependent in AI being my decision-making factor, but it's definitely something. And I would do spot testing. I would look at somebody who is brilliant in the market and look at what they're doing. I would look at what the average investor is doing in the market. Then I would look at what AI is doing versus them to see how it's measured, how it's averaging out. Because if you look at the top performers, the Ray Dalios, the David Swensons, the Jack Bogles, the Warren Buffetts, and on, these people who literally have built their wealth by investing primarily in the market and in insurance and things of that nature, every last one of them will tell you, you can't predict the market. That anybody who tells you they can predict the market is lying to you. What you want to predict is viability and survivability of assets. The market is going to be moved by so many things, from politics to war, natural disasters, and so many other things are going to impact the market, things you can't predict. So you can't predict the market, but you can reasonably assess the success of a company during downtimes. That's how you measure. The tech layoffs, I think that it's a market shift. Um, I think tech is actually still viable from everything that I'm looking at. And it's going, I'm in Houston, and Austin is banging right now. So the market doesn't justify layoffs, with the exception of a different form of scalability, a different form of performance, and the introduction of AI is going to play a role. What I've seen in tech now is the rise of the consultant, the rise of the small firm. So you're going to see a lot of more smaller businesses in tech, from what I'm seeing, come in, and people are doing well. I know a few people. Actually, one of my clients is tech, and in Austin. So it's going to be interesting in how it plays. But I think that the layoffs could be in a way of manipulating the pay. But the flip side of that is, we now live in a world where anybody can take their value set and walk away from a corporation and create a space for themselves as a consultant, as an expert, as whatever, and literally actually earn as much or more online by themselves if they are willing to connect to the right people and learn things. So there is no need to panic because of anything, because every person is going to have an opportunity to show up. And that's what it all boils down to, is showing up. What are you going to do with the opportunity that you have? Because if you are viable to a company, you are viable to their market. They don't have you there. They're not paying you there because you look cute. They're not paying you there because you make great coffee. They're paying you because you bring something to the table that makes them money. You need to know what that value is, because in understanding that value, you're going to have an understanding of how you fit in and what you have to offer people. And then when you understand that value, now you can start to refine it. Now you can start to expand it. And now you can create your own identity. And in many instances, what you're going to find that people creating new identities are creating new spaces, new niches, or sub niches that they operate in with very little competition. And that's going to be the name of the game. How can you create spaces and solve problems in a space that there's little competition? You do that by solving problems in a way that other people aren't, or finding problems nobody's addressing. And you solve those problems, you create a space for yourself. But one of the things that everybody's going to have to be able to do is learn, unlearn, and relearn almost in real time. I forget who said this at the turn of the century, but they said that the new form of literacy will no longer be reading, writing, and understanding, but it will be the ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And we're learning that. Someone who's been in business pretty much all their life, I can remember when we used the same marketing format for literally decades. It was the same marketing format. You can pretty much just cut it and paste it and run with it. And now it's flipped upside down. Social media has changed everything. The internet has changed everything. What worked 2 years ago doesn't work anymore. I remember when the pop-up ad was the thing to work. Who pays attention to pop-ups now? What happens? People see things enough, they learn how to ignore it. So we had to learn that. That's something you have to learn. But guess what? That created a new entry into the business world. Somebody who can create ads that are attractive, not annoying, and catch the attention and get people to act on it. And it's a constant move, a constant grind. Who can write copy that makes people want to buy or take action? All of these things are places. Copywriting is a great space online right now. When I started rebuilding, I actually started out writing copy, writing content, and product descriptions for companies outside of the US. There's so much out there that you can be doing. Say, do you feel there's still money in Bitcoin? I hate commenting on that, because every time you comment on it, you don't know what you're going to get back. When it comes to Bitcoin, I'll tell you what interests me. It's not the Bitcoin, it's not the cryptocurrency, it's the technology behind it. Blockchain technology is something that everybody should be researching right now. Blockchain technology is the thing that is going to explode, and your ability to understand it, your ability to operate in it, your ability to use it is going to determine a great deal of your viability in tech in this world. Because you got to understand that your largest retailers are online now. Even your brick and mortar retailer, Walmart, is slowly passing itself online with its retail sales. Amazon, your biggest retailer. These are places where people are operating. 85% of new purchases are searched first on a mobile device, searching the internet. So even if I'm going to a brick and mortar place, I'm going to the internet to find out which brick and mortar place I'm going to, what services they render. So even if you have a brick and mortar place, you're going to have a viable online presence. So the world online is opening up. That's why I pushed a 7-day online business course, because it's just getting bigger. I remember when every last one of my sessions with my clients was face-to-face and the few on the phone. I don't even do face-to-face consultations, therapy sessions, coaching sessions. I don't even do them anymore. Everything is virtual. And when I first started this, it wasn't. But that's where we are now. So then you've got to adapt. You've got to learn, unlearn, relearn. So Bitcoin, I think, still has viability. The problem with it is it's too susceptible, at least in my estimate, it's too susceptible to power brokers interfering with it. We saw that with Elon Musk and his movement in it, which was a positive move, but then he did something and it was a negative move. And so, and that's not even the biggest concern. You talk about governments interfering. So while I'm on that, pay close attention to the dollar, the US dollar. That's something that you need to be aware of. Number 5, give more to get more. It's a principle that applies to more than finance. There's this rule of abundance. I tell you all the time. The first thing, gratitude is the gateway to abundance, but giving is the capacity expanding force of abundance. See, first of all, you have to be grateful in order to experience abundance in any true nature, because it's gratitude that opens the gate. If you can't be thankful and grateful for what you have, you will never create the capacity for more. The other way that you create that capacity is by giving. When you give, you create a flowing system that flows back to you. Everything that you put out comes back to you. It doesn't always, as a matter of fact, rarely does it come back from the direction you put it in. The person you pour into may not be the person that comes back to you with it, but it comes back, and it doesn't always come back in the way you send it out, but it comes back with equal force and positivity. So if I'm putting out something financially, it may not, I may put out $50 and it may come back to me with somebody saying, hey, here's tickets to the next so-and-so game or concert. I'm being very simplistic in presenting it, but I'm trying to get you to understand that everything isn't always in dollar form, but it has equal or greater value, and you've got to understand that. But the way that you are going to expand your capacity is by being willing to give, by being willing to sit up and go beyond in helping someone. Everybody I help, isn't a customer. Now I have to limit the number of people I help, because I have people, I have uh, every day an influx of people who need me. And it's only so many I can take and say, hey, I got you, I need you. But what I try to do is I try to go find it. I try to go out and look. I'll stop and I'll spend time with the guy on the corner. Hey, let's go sit down and go eat. Let's talk. And you'll find out that these people are people. And I never treat them as if I'm better than them. I treat them as my equal. And I find the beauty in them. I find the God in them. I find the love in them. And they bless me. They can't bless me with material things, but material things can be gotten. The feeling of being appreciated is rare. And sometimes you got to get away from people that are so used to you giving that they no longer appreciate you. And you go find people who don't get, and you give, and they appreciate you. And the reciprocity of that appreciation is powerful. Give, and give responsibly, because there are times I've really put myself in situations I shouldn't have by giving. Give responsibly. Know what you can give. Have an idea. I can give this much this year. I can give this much in time. I can give this much in money. I can give this much in advice. I can give this much in free mentorship. And what you do is you say, okay, when I reach this capacity, I'm done for the year, because I have to focus on making sure I stay viable and that I don't hurt my long-term goals and what I'm trying to do. And so there's definitely going to always be gatekeeping. The difficult thing is in a free access society like America, so where you just have, everybody has access, and like there are these programs now where even people who can't afford internet can get it for free. So, and then everybody's got a phone, so everybody's got access to it. It's harder to gatekeep, because here's what happens: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram were all gatekeepers of information and determined what information was going to come out during the pandemic. Rumble came, the Telegraph came, Epic came, And what you found is now those platforms are expanding and growing to the point that now Elon Musk has Twitter, and now it's a more open forum. Now you can post, and then Spotify opened up. You can go on there and you can put your content on, as long as you're not pushing hate and killing somebody. You can pretty much put your reality and your truth on there. And so when you talk about the market, the same thing. As certain doors close, others will open. The beautiful thing about it is you can create this space that nobody can control. You can get a server. You can, on that server, upload what you need to open your own space on the internet. And as long as you've got that server, you've got that space. And so gatekeepers are going to be there. It's going to always be people trying to control. That's what this thing about control and power. So what you have to do is find ways to operate in spaces that you have more control over. That's why I'm real big on people creating multiple streams of income and not solely dependent upon jobs and so many other things. So on that note, look, I hope I gave you some things to think about. I think we're getting the week out to a great start. I'm going to try to get to you every day this week with our theme for the day. Tomorrow is Transformational Tuesday. So we're going to talk about some unique ways that we can institute change in our lives for the better, ways that we can measure it, ways that we can facilitate it, ways that we can ensure that we follow through on it, because that's so important. If you don't govern change in your life, change will govern you, because change is going to happen. You don't get to stop change from happening, but you can direct change. You can be very intentional in the way that you change, in the way that you grow, but that's got to be a decision you make. So that was something we're going to talk about on tomorrow. Again, before I get off, if you want to learn how to create streams of income online and do it over and over and over again, once you learn this method, click the 7-day online business launch course, and it'll tell you everything you're going to get. It's worth 10 times what you're going to invest to get it done, and it's going to keep paying you back because it's making money online. Then the other one is the legacy wealth. I think that's one of the most valuable things I've offered. Very few people are jumping, and I understand why, because we don't see the value. We talk a lot about wealth, but we never really truly invest in ourselves at a level to learn wealth. We'll jump on these little things that are wrong. Give this much and do this. Jump on this, jump on that. And I have no problem if it's a hustle that you can get into that's legitimate and not harming anybody. Go for it. Do it. I have no problem with that. But when you have the principles and the actual understanding of how all this stuff works on a global scale, then you can learn how to set your own pace, your own path, and create your own opportunities. And that's what legacy wealth is about. Well, anyway, I'm going to get ready to get off here. I thank you guys for dropping in on me. As I always say, I'm going to live my life on full so that when I leave this place, I die on E. My challenge to you is you do the same thing. On that note, I'm out of here. You guys have an unbelievable remainder of your